Hi, Teresa Norton here from Hong Kong at StarMaker. I'm a senior executive coach, and I'm having a delightful conversation with my friend and colleague, Ricky Nowak, who is also a coach and is based in Melbourne, Australia. And during these series of short conversations that we're having, we're going to be sharing examples of the kinds of challenges that our clients bring us and ask one another, how would you handle that?
I have a conversation that I'd like to share with you because I have a client right now who is in a particular position because she's angry. You see, I opened my Zoom screen for a coaching session with her. She's already waiting online, but she's not looking at the screen. She's looking at her phone, and she's got a very troubled look on her face. I called her name once, I called her name twice, I called her name three times. She finally looks up, says a very brief hello, and launches into telling me everything that is wrong with her team and how they've told her that they're floundering, which is news to her. She's confused, she's furious with them, and she continues on for a few minutes like this. I acknowledge her frustration. I suggest we take a few minutes to work out exactly what she needs from me, what would make the session valuable, and what she would like to do after we end our call. She's incredibly impatient, and she would just wants to download her angst. How would you handle that?
Wow, Ricky. Well, look, I'd have to check in with myself a little bit because, this calling her name once, twice, three times, that kind of dismissive behavior, kind of pushes my buttons, makes me feel like I'm not being respected. And so I need to pause in situations like that and reflect on how I behave when I'm emotionally upset and then try and cut the other person a little bit of slack there. I think what I would probably do first is I would let her go through the process of downloading all this frustration, and then I'd guide her to think back on the conversation that she had with her team that's made her so upset, and ask her to look at that as if she were watching a scene from a play or a little scene in a movie, and I'd ask her to concentrate on the dialogue. Think of it like a script. There's no description of what's motivating anybody. It's just what was said and then what was the response. And what was said and what was the response. It is very hard to do this. I have to tell you, we all know that when you're upset, to think back and just think of what was actually said. But in doing this, it kind of calms you down and gets you to reflect just on what was in that scene. And also, I think it would help her detach a little bit from what was going on. No explanation, no assumptions, just what does Shakespeare say? Words, words, words. Just what was actually said between she and her team members. I'd also tell her that the story that I'm hearing when she's talking to me is that a team member has offered her, or her entire team has offered her, an opportunity to help them through something that is difficult. If they're reaching out to her, they're reaching out because she has an opportunity to play a part in this. And if this was a scene from a movie, what role did she want to play in that scene? I'd explore with the coachee what she might say if she were playing the villain in that scene, for example. What would her response be when a team member came and asked her for help because they were struggling with some dynamics in the workplace? And then I would ask her how she would play it if she were the hero. And I think the nice thing about exploring that is that I haven't worked with any leaders who don't want to be the hero or the heroine. They just, our emotions get in the way, and then we're saying things that are unhelpful because we haven't been able to pause and detach and choose our words more carefully. So, I'd probably share an example of how at some point in my own life I had to employ that tactic of detaching and thinking back on it, because I think that my making myself accessible, a little vulnerable sometimes, makes the other person feel more comfortable to explore that vulnerability themselves. So I'd go back to probably the very last thing I would say to her in that coaching session would be to ask her, you say this comes as a surprise to you. Why is it a surprise to you? And I'd like you to just think a little bit about that before we meet again. how come this blindsided you? Or are there things that you think you've seen that you just haven't chosen to notice? So that, Ricky, is how I would handle it.
I love that, and I love that some takeaways that I'm hearing right up fast in there, which was, when you're emotional, reflect on the event as it's a scene from a play or a movie, and it's just that snapshot, not everything else. Great point. I also loved, when you said to identify ways how people play their part. Are they a villain? Are they a hero? Are they a victim? And that helps us guide them as coaches. And move through that to the next scene, and hopefully a one that's resolved. And the last one I loved, what is also you're talking about the coach is sharing a personal anecdote of vulnerability and how that builds a safe space, because the imperfection is perfect. And we have to celebrate imperfection, and by showing us as imperfect as well, it opens up the dialogue for our coachees. And, those three things that you've spoken about really goes back to the statements of the questions that we ask ourselves in similar situations. And, you said early on, go back to how we handle it when we're emotional. We're not outside being perfect. So these experiences that you're sharing with me help me grow, and I thank you. And I hope for those of you who are watching this video, it helps you grow too, and adapt and adopt what's right for you and the people in your world that you're working with. We want you to be part of these conversations, and we'd love you to join in. Put your answers in below and share with us what some of the thoughts are and what some of the results are as well, because the best way to get better results is by sharing what you're doing and always looking for a better way. So we love to share our results with you. Please do it back. These are not meant as advice. These are just meant for ways to continually improve. So join into the conversation. We serve you by sharing, and we learn by listening to you as well. So thank you, and thank you, Teresa. Great insights.
Thank you, Ricky.